I normally don't talk about any drama when it comes to the gaming space, and this is mainly due to the fact that I've moved on from being a commentary channel as I want to focus on stuff that I'm actually passionate about. But this situation has honestly pushed me over the edge. So we've all known for a while now that Nintendo has been pretty anti-consumer when it comes to things like modding and stuff, right? And to be fair, modding a console and putting pirated games on it is not only against the law, but it goes against the terms of service. So technically, Nintendo has a right to crack down on that sort of thing. However, I feel like with the changes that they made to their EULA now, kind of oversteps this grace that I'm willing to give them. So basically, if you don't know what I'm talking about, recently it came to light that Nintendo made a huge change to their EULA, which is basically this document that you sign each time you buy a Nintendo product in order to use it for, gaming. With the new update to the EULA, it now states, quote, "Without limitation, you agree that you may not A. Publish, copy, modify, reverse engineer, lease, rent, decompile, disassemble, distribute, offer for sale, or create derivative works of any portion of Nintendo account services. B. Bypass, modify, decrypt, defeat, tamper with, or otherwise circumvent any of the functions or protections of the Nintendo account services, including the use of any hardware or software that would cause the Nintendo account services to operate other than in accordance with its documentation and intended use. C. Obtain, install, or use any unauthorized copies of Nintendo account services, or D. Exploit the Nintendo account services in any manner other than to use them in accordance with the applicable documentation and intended use, in each case without Nintendo's written consent, express authorization, or unless otherwise expressly permitted by applicable law. You acknowledge that if you fail to comply with the foregoing restrictions, Nintendo may render the Nintendo account services and/or applicable Nintendo device permanently unusable in whole or in part." So the main thing we're going to focus on is that last bit there. It's a little vague as to what permanently unusable in whole or in part means, but considering Nintendo's actions in the past, it's suggesting that Nintendo can permanently brick your console if you break the EULA. For those who don't know what it means to brick a console, it essentially means that your console becomes completely unusable, essentially turning into a brick, hence the term brick. Now listen, I personally don't mind if Nintendo removes online access to players for pirating. At the end of the day, piracy is illegal, and it's a way to crack down on hackers in games. However, this goes beyond what I'm okay with. People will, more often than not, spend upwards of $500 on a new gaming console, and the fact that it can be bricked at any point feels like it should be illegal. And I know what you're thinking, well, just don't mod your console then, problem solved. And while yes, this only affects modders, you have to consider what Nintendo considers modding to be. To modify something simply means to change it in a way that wasn't intended by the original creator. Obviously, there are some big outliers like, adding Windows to your Switch, or pirating games. But what else could be considered modding? Maybe, perhaps, adding a new kickstand to your Switch, say if the old one was broken? Could that be considered a mod? Well, according to the definition, adding a kickstand to your Switch could be considered a mod, and therefore, worthy of your Switch being bricked. Now, I don't think Nintendo will brick your Switch for simply repairing or modding your kickstand, but technically they have the right to do that. But this goes further than just modding. This also gets more into the implications of what buying a product from Nintendo, or really any gaming company nowadays, entails. If you buy their product, you don't actually own it. And I find this to be complete horseshit. If I buy a product, then I should retain ownership of that product, especially if I paid more than $100 for it. If I want to give my Switch a new kickstand, or improve the screen, or hell, even give it a new wallpaper, then who has the right to tell me no? After all, and I cannot stress this enough, I paid for it. And bear in mind, this is strictly talking about problems with the console, because believe it or not, now it's starting to affect physical games as well. Yep, that's right, physical media is no longer physical. At least, some of them won't be. See, Nintendo is using a new system of game cards called game key cards. Basically, the game cards themselves don't contain any game data on them, and instead they contain a key that will download them from the eShop. And granted, this is only for some games, especially those with huge storage requirements, but even still, this can be really frustrating, especially for collectors. Granted, you won't be fooled into buying these, as they're making it clear on the box what you're buying, but what if there was a game that people really wanted to add to their collection, only to find out that it's not even a physical copy? I bet I would be really frustrated. Not only that, but what if, say, one day, Nintendo decided they didn't want to support the game on their console anymore? What happens then? Well, thanks to everything that I just explained, you just lose the game. Just $60 down the drain. And that game card that you just bought? forget it. You might as well toss it out, as it's just a useless chunk of plastic now. To be fair to Nintendo, it's not just a problem with them. Many gaming companies nowadays have switched over to almost pure digital media. Streaming services, game passes, the whole shebang. As people continue to support products like this, it slowly takes away from the fact that you just don't own anything anymore. You don't own all those games in the Game Pass, so if they leave the pass or the company decided to stop supporting them, well, tough luck. Of course, physical copies of the game are still around, but they're slowly being taken away as well, and it's only a matter of time until they're gone for good. And when that happens, well, you better get used to not owning anything. And you know what? Maybe it's our fault. Maybe because we continue to buy these consoles and give these companies money, that they continue to make things worse for the average consumer. I mean, as I'm writing this, Nintendo Switch 2 has already sold out on its pre-orders, and did so within a few hours of the pre-orders going live. Well, I can personally tell you that today is where I draw the line. I'll be sticking with my Switch 1. Sure, it won't be as nice, but at least I'll actually own my games. But that said, I think I've ranted for long enough. Even after hearing what I have to say, if you still want to buy a Switch 2, then more power to you, I guess. Admittedly, this is only really going to affect people who are hardcore gamers, collectors, and modders, and it doesn't really reflect on the overall population, since most people are just casual players. So I can understand if you don't really care about owning physical media, as long as you get to play the games that you want. But in any event, that's going to be it from me for now. Thanks for listening to me rant for a bit, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.